And we've seen them go to a Superior, a Dollar Tree, and a CVS pharmacy. Once they get to that location, they'll find anybody that's around and they'll try and arrest that person, or they'll just move them out. Now, the difficulty is once they get to one location and clear it and move on to the next, people have a tendency to move on in. Here is a Dollar Tree again. We've seen this broken into before, people coming in and out of it, but they got reports that people were back, so in they go. And we've seen this played over and over. Likewise, we're following the Long Beach Police Department helicopter that's overseen right now, and they are going from place to place trying to tamp down some of these calls. We pulled up on this one earlier when nobody was, when no police officers were here, and people saw our helicopter thinking it was a police helicopter. They scattered as well. So a lot of people on edge. Police department going from location to location, anywhere from North Long Beach near the 405 freeway, all the way down to the shoreline. So it's a big area to cover. We just heard the press report saying, or the presser saying that the National Guard will be here. They certainly need the help due to the fact that we've got a large area here to police and a lot of people running around. Overhead, Derek Bell, Sky 5. Back to you now in the studio.
Derek, in terms of the groups running and gathering together, we saw massive amounts of groups several hours ago and even an hour or so ago. Does it seem that they're sort of dispersed now in smaller groups?
Very much so. Much smaller groups, and people just kind of melt away. Probably, for example, like this location here, they would just melt away and keep an eye on it, and then once the police leave, one or two or three, maybe 4 or 5 people may come back, or you may only have 4 or 5 people here at any given time. It doesn't make for a big priority for the police officers, so it's for the law enforcement people, but certainly the people who are in the area here, the large number of people here in small groups, they seem to have the upper hand as far as the looting.
You know, Derek, within the last hour, we've seen groups in downtown Los Angeles tonight that you'll see a large group of people. They'll be moving down the street, and then suddenly they all start running around a corner, and some of them would run off in a different direction. Is that basically kind of the same MO where they're trying to break off in smaller groups and then, you know, wreak some havoc all around, you know, the neighborhood or inside the city, and it makes it tough for the police to stop it because it's just too much going on?
Well, correct. I can't speak to the specific MO, but that we have seen that scenario play out over and over and over. Not being on the ground here and not hearing what's going on, we can't really tell. We can't really speculate on how that mechanism actually works. But indeed, we have seen people do exactly that many times here in the last 48 hours.
What are we looking at here on with the? Are those officers around a vehicle, or are those protesters at all?
Exactly. These are officers. They go in groups now, 4 or 5, maybe 10 vehicles, and they're responding quickly to different locations. We saw them roll up to this location and all dismount and run to the Dollar Tree. And as you can see, once they've cleared it and once they realize there's nobody here, back to the vehicles they go and off to the next call. And it is seriously that quick that things are happening. We've got a commanding view up here at Sky 5 of the entire Long Beach area, and we can see the red lights and blue lights moving about, taking up positions, and then moving on again. So it's a dynamic and very, very difficult situation for the police department here. They're certainly earning their pay tonight.
Yeah, we heard the chief of police in Long Beach say, you know, people were questioning if you knew this was happening, you know, were you guys prepared? And Derek, he said, basically what happens if police officers get deployed to a certain area, and then once we may have lost Derek there, but once they get sent to a certain area, then they're pretty much stuck in that area.
Yeah.
So then you're stuck in one spot, and if there's another call, you can't go to it. So it makes it very difficult.
Well, that's true. They aren't spending very much time at any given call. They are moving in quickly, assessing the situation, taking anybody into custody that they need, and then move on. Likewise, when the lights start, people scatter, as you might imagine they would.
it sounds like situations where you're just trying to, like, keep crimes from being committed, but sometimes you just can't get there in time. That's
Derek, are
gotta be
those
exhausting.
fire trucks moving in that area?
Yeah, as you can see, very, very typical of what we see here in Sky 5. Anytime we see some lights moving around like this, we take a zoom in there and take a look at what's going on. 2 fire trucks moving about in the neighborhood here. It's unclear what they were responding to, but it looks like they're back out on Long Beach Boulevard heading to the next call. That's at a
All right. Looks like our signal.
But we're hearing calls. We're hearing calls like that all the.
All right, our signal's a little spotty right now with Derek Bell. We'll get back to him in just a few minutes. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Possibility of arrest. Instead, the crowd is responding with "Take a knee, take a knee." The officers originally formed a line on 10th Street, a little further up to the north, but and formed that line. They started firing that tear gas, and it went out. It sent this crowd just scattering, and me scattering as well. Very unpleasant. You can see they're back. Back. A lot of them are back. A lot of them left. There's several hundred in this crowd. Because I'm going to install a new battery so that if this happens, we can see it when it happens.
after a former Minneapolis officer was arrested, hundreds of protesters marched through downtown San Jose, shutting down Highway 101 near Santa Clara Street, demanding justice for George Floyd. A Chopper 5 was over the scene as demonstrators flooded the freeway. And right when the protesters took over the freeway, a car started smoking its tires, which got the protesters excited. It started sending up a lot of smoke, and this was right before the CHP shut down the freeway. As you can see there from these coverage from Live Chopper 5 showing us what happened. And KKX5's Len Ramirez joining us live from San Jose, where the protests are getting a little bit bigger along City Hall, but actually have stopped along the highway area. Len.
Yeah, Juliet, we just got moved back a little bit by the police department. This is where there was a confrontation just a few minutes ago between hundreds of protesters and the San Jose Police Department. The protesters basically started at City Hall about a quarter of a mile to a mile down Santa Clara Street that way. And so they marched around the downtown area and then headed in this direction. They came all the way up Santa Clara Street and then got onto the freeway. Show you hand left, Vince. We can show the freeway entrance that they just marched onto the freeway right there where it says freeway entrance 101, and they walked down the ramp where you can see the cars moving right now, and they walked onto the freeway. It was cars that were going by at freeway speed. You know, we're talking in 65, 70 miles per hour, and slowly but surely the drivers saw what was happening. They slowed down, and the protesters took over the freeway, and they stayed that way for over an hour. Traffic was backing up for miles back on Highway 101. At some point, the police department from San Jose came on scene with a show of force. They parked their cars, and dozens of these riot-geared police officers started getting out. At that point, the protesters dispersing. They went up the ramp. Protesters were right up in the face of officers, but the officers showed tremendous restraint. They were pushing back, but they weren't really beating down anything, which is a big difference that would have really incited the crowds. They were just kind of pushing back, kind of defending their own space, but not getting too pushy against the protesters. So the protesters then moved their way back, and then the crowd eventually just went back towards City Hall. Now, we're not able to show you exactly from our vantage point what they're doing in the City Hall area, but we understand they have retaken the street, Santa Clara Street, but for right here, the San Jose Police Department has things very much under control. There was no violence against any individuals. There was some vandalism of police cars. I think 4 cars had their back windows broken by protesters who were throwing rocks, breaking them. A couple of the patrol cars were also spray painted with graffiti, some anti-police messages, things like that. But by and large, this thing ended a lot more peacefully than it could have, given that it... Juliet?
Absolutely. And Len, obviously you've covered many of these protests, but it seemed like this actually disseminated pretty quickly. And for you covering it on the ground, you didn't get in any harm's way either. It didn't seem like anyone was trying to get in our cameras or come visibly close to you as well.